We're naturally human too. So the days you're having an absolute human meltdown, just acknowledge it. That's fine. That's okay. It's okay to be human, because that's what you're here to do. That's what you're here to learn. Interestingly, you can't have this intuition without the human mind. So if you deny your human mind and try and be totally spiritual, you're unbalanced. If you ignore the spiritual, you're unbalanced. If you're too much in your mind, you're unbalanced. So it's that balance. It's having that wisdom and experience, working experience and practice. That's why it's called a spiritual practice, to know when to be human and to use logic and make those physical world choices and to take physical action, or knowing when to sit and do om. Mm-hmm. You work well with the both and you're quite balanced.
Yeah.
You know, the comfort zone kills you, but you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Get comfortable with being courageous and pissing people off. Because to wake up and to start working with intuition, you're going to have to do this, because you're going to have to go against the masses that are asleep, that aren't working with intuition, that are using their logic, that are just doing the night, you know. And I get the comfort zone, you know, people have got families and stuff like that. And it does take a lot of courage to break out of it. But the benefits, because you start getting insights into your own life. This is where I do my life, I choose me. It's essentially what you're really doing is choosing you above absolutely everybody in that issue. Mm-hmm. We are powerful manifestors, and the words we use are creating the spells. They are the spells. Mm-hmm. We are spelling our world every day by how we talk.
Hypnotizing us, right?
Yeah, we are. So if you're not speaking eloquently, and I'm not necessarily saying the British, oh, la-di-da, let's do it in that way, because I certainly don't speak.
But that's what I hear in my head whenever I try to be proper. That's the voice.
Yeah. But it's about noticing the words that you're using. So if you're using negative positives, like, oh, I don't think money's a limited resource, because that word "don't's" there, you're saying, I think money's a limited resource.
Yes.
Whereas you should be saying money is an unlimited resource. Money is infinite. The massive difference in the words, which are creating your reality.
All right. Welcome into another episode of Reinventing Life After 50. I'm super happy to have our guest today, Roy Bristow, join us. Roy is a highly accomplished spiritual mentor, intuitive healer, MENS, MENS. We'll talk about that, health coach, and psychic medium with over 30 years of experience. He has dedicated his life to helping people overcome limiting beliefs, activate their intuitive superpowers, and create a harmonious relationship between their heart, mind, body, and soul. Roy's unique blend of spiritual wisdom and practical guidance has empowered countless individuals to transform their lives and embrace their true potential. Roy, welcome in. Tell everybody where you're calling in from, and welcome in, brother.
Thanks, Scott, for such a wonderful introduction, you know, giving myself goosebumps. I always find it amazing how, like, when you try and write your own bio, you just struggle with it so much, and then you just put it so succinctly, and I'm like, can you send me that? And it's probably something that I've sent you anyway. But, but thanks for that. And I'm calling in from Australia. So as much as I sound English, because I'm originally from England, across the pond, as they say for you lot. Across the pond, I live in Australia these days, and I've done for nearly 17 years now.
Oh my gosh! So, what part of England are you originally from?
A place called Lincolnshire, which is East Midlands. Most people haven't heard of that, but they've heard of Nottingham because of Robin Hood. So right. It's about 40 miles east of Nottingham.
So because I don't have an understanding of real relation to things. My father-in-law is from Essex, England. I don't know where that.
Yes, Essex is the outer circle of London.
Okay.
Essentially. Okay. So Lincolnshire, if you cut England in half and that line, that's kind of Lincolnshire.
Gotcha.
But on the east side.
So what took you from England to Australia? What was that?
Yeah, well, I was actually married at the time, and my ex-wife, it was her dream to come to Australia. And also at the time, I got a 3-year-old son, or 2, nearly 3 at the time, when we started discussing it. And like Lincolnshire's just country market towns. So there's only one big city, and it's not that big either. So there wasn't really a lot of crime around or anything like that. And that's interesting enough. I mentioned about Nottingham. that was a heavily crime place at the
Yeah.
time. It was sort of gun capital of England, and that was guns and drugs were starting to encroach into the, what's really a sleepy rural place to live. And so I just thought, for a better opportunity for my son to grow up without being drawn into gangs and things like that, and I'm one for adventure.
Yeah.
So, and interesting enough, an actual tarot reader 3 years previously had said, "Oh, you ever thought about going to Australia?" And at the time, I went,
No.
"No, no, no," because I used to hate spiders. So, and you hear all these
Oh
horror
god.
stories about
They're the
Australia,
size of
and
civics there, aren't
yeah,
they?
yeah, it's like no, and I was like, no, and then lo and behold, I end up here. So that's how we ended up here. More from us, so my son could have a better lifestyle.
Yeah. And look at you now. So those that listen to the show regularly, we foreshadowed last week. You and Aida just got married. So think about that,
Yeah,
man. If you hadn't made that trip,
yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah,
it's just amazing.
yeah.
It's
Well, it was because, like, for those listeners that understand what the dark night of the soul is, that was basically my dark night of the soldier, or one of them. I've done them so many times. These, when I look back at, oh, there was one, there was one, oh, there was
Mhm.
another one. But this was a real massive one that really cracked my spiritual journey open, because I think we get to Australia in April and the marriage was done by May,
Gosh.
and it was just,
Wow.
oh yeah.
Wow.
And
Wow.
then 10 years of fighting to see my son, and a lot of heartache and court battles and
Yeah.
horrible stuff when you look at it from a human perspective.
Mhm.
But when you look at it from a spiritual perspective, it's a really great teaching for me to open me up to then be able to help others understand parental alienation and so many other things. That parental alienation is mostly men go through that.
Mm.
I mean, obviously, that it's a bit of both, but when you look at the statistics, it's majority of men that experience that kind of thing. And so it's easy to understand that, so that I can help other men of how to live through it and how to be in the middle of it without getting stressed and angry and making the situation worse. Because, you know, and you take a kid away from any parent that loves their child, they're going to get angry and annoyed and can't think straight and can't focus. So I was able to manage that myself, so then I could learn how to do it to then help others.
So for the audience sake, speak through parental alienation.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I can only speak from my experience and what I believe, my opinion of what it actually is. It's just where when two parents split up and the other parent withholds the child for no reason.
Mm.
So it's just out of spite and ego and anger that they've split up, even though they may have even instigated the split. And so they use the child as the weapon.
Mhm.
Oh, well, if you don't give me this, you're not going to see your child. If you don't do this, you're not going to see that kind of statement. Or
Mhm.
no, that's it. I'm moving out of the area. F you, and I hate you, so I'm going to use the child to, and so yeah, and so the other parent don't get to see their child on a regular basis. And I've looked at the statistics of this, and I think the statistics I looked at was actually the American statistics, that single parent families, their child is something ridiculously, I don't know if it's 54 or 84% higher chance of ending up on drugs and crime
That is correct.
when
Again,
when when they when they don't get to see their father.
well, you have the alienation part, but then you weaponize the child, and the child only
Mm.
sees themselves as that sort of mechanism, right? So
Yeah,
then
yeah,
all
yeah,
they know is to do is to fight force with force, be forceful, all those kind of things that come in and rope into
yeah,
that.
yeah. And that's something that the child themselves then have to deal with, because I can see it in my son. He's still, to this day, and he's 19 now, nearly 20. He's 20 in about 8 weeks, I think.
Mm.
He's still reluctant to, because I'm this spiritual energetic being. I can feel energies. I can still
Mhm.
feel that reluctance sometimes when he wants to come up and see me, because he
Mhm.
knows it's going to piss his mum off.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, you're now an adult.
Gosh, you think about
That's
that,
something for you've got to deal with.
like that never really occurred to me, like until you just said it the way you said it. So he has these two things, like it's almost like a tug of war. He's in the
Yeah,
center, you know?
yeah, because on a neurological level, on simplistic neurological level, he got he was in a situation where a habit formed where he always thought he was choosing between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, mate, you don't choose either. Or that's the irony. You choose you. You choose you. And basically tell either of the parents who you're upsetting to F off. Excuse, I'm British, so F's a common word for us. For
So what he was trying to say
yeah.
is he was trying to say fuck off. That's what he was trying to say.
Yeah, fuck off. You know, it's like if you tell either of us fuck off and don't worry about who you're upsetting and do what's best for you, and let us adults deal with being upset instead of trying to manage our being upset and just please yourself.
God, so that really hit me, like you saying it like that, man, Roy, like you choose you. Humans could apply that at any time in their life,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
Yeah. People, if you choose you as a people pleaser, first thing that'll happen is you'll lose friends and possibly even family.
Yeah.
The minute you cut those boundaries and say, no, I'm going to do what I want to do.
It's
Like
interesting. I've never applied it that way. What I say quite common to my clients that come to me is like, sometimes you have to love people from afar, like really far away, and you should be in a constant state of evaluating and cutting off kind of those, cleansing your friends list, so to speak. If there's no longer serving you, helping you to be a better version of yourself, and it's a constant, toxic type situation, or they're energy vampires, man, you got to move on from that. So in that, what you said is a much simpler way and more direct, you choose you, a way of saying that is powerful.
Yes. The most powerful things in life are always most simple. Because how we used to raise my son, because I said to my son, because I was fully aware, so I was very blessed that I was fully aware in that Joel, his name is, I could teach Joel that to counteract the emotional stuff going on. And I said, at the end of the day, mate, you're responsible for your love. And I was teaching him this at 7. You're responsible for your love. You're responsible for your happiness. Those two things you don't ever give away to anyone else. And if you don't ever give those away to anyone else, you'll actually have a balanced life. Yeah. And as much as I feel this reluctance from him when it comes to, because he doesn't want to upset his mum, and because he still lives with her, so it's a challenging situation that he's learning to manage as an adult. So, but ultimately he's pretty chilled and pretty happy, and I can feel the energy, so, he's following his path. He's decided to be a mechanic and he's really enjoying that. And I said, look, I don't care what you do, mate, as long as if it's what you enjoy, you do it to your full capabilities.
And I'll support every bit of that as long as you're doing it to fullest ability, right? So you said about 8 weeks. He's a February what?
Yeah, February the 1st.
February 18th. So yeah, there you go. There you go. Aquarians, right?
Aquarians, yeah.
Those. All right. So your bio mentions a diverse career path from an electrician to serving in the Royal Navy before fully embracing your spiritual calling. How have these experiences shaped your perspective on life and healing?
Well, interestingly enough, in regards to the electrician stuff, I love life, the irony of life and the simplicity of life. Sometimes these really powerful messages are here until someone else just says something so nonchalantly, and you go and you get this dawn of realization just go through your whole body, and you go, "Oh, I've not seen that bit. It's so simple." That because I think I was like 40 even, and someone said when I was talking about being an electrician and now Reiki and energy healing, someone just went, "Oh, so you did physical energy and then you went spiritual energy?"
Yeah,
and I'm like, "What?" I was like,
that's good. You should put that on your business cards.
Yeah, and it's interesting enough that the physical energy teaching, and I was an electrician for over 20 odd years.
Yeah,
how that was my concrete base. And the interesting thing is as well was through physical experience, I could always handle getting a bolt from electricity more than my co-workers. They used to send them across the room and I wouldn't even move. I could just take the energy of it stronger than most. And because while I was an electrician, I was fully aware, I was intuitive, but I was still in the early days, so I comprehend its journey within me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, and plus that was also that helped me get to Australia as well, because the emigration rules, being an electrician, it was a trade in demand, so it was pretty easy to get a permanent residency, so I could emigrate. So there was that purpose of, this purpose years ago. And it's not like I didn't know what I wanted to be when I left school. So I just, when everyone was leaving school, people knew what they wanted to be, and I had no bloody idea. I was like, oh no, and this is literally how I just went, I'll be an electrician. That's exactly how I chose it. And then because I made the choice, I then went to college, and I think my mum had a friend who ran an electrical company, so they got me a job there as an apprenticeship, and that's how I became an electrician. And then I did my apprenticeship for a couple of years, and because I lived in this really boring, dull market town, the only way to expand was to leave, and I didn't want to join the army because that's frontline, and that wasn't my thing. I didn't want to join the Air Force because we're surrounded by Air Force space, so I know I'd just end up near home. So the only other option, and at the time a mate of mine was spending his 18th in Bahamas, being in the, so I went, yeah, I'll join the Navy because I want to travel. So that's how I ended up in the Navy. Still being an electrician in the Navy, but it's a different, it was more electrical engineering.
So was there a specific aha moment that led you to pursue a career as a spiritual mentor and healer?
Well, there was a day, this was in Australia actually, when my contract run out at a job, my last job as an electrician, my contract run out, and something inside me just said, that's it, you're done. It's done its job. And because by then I was already well versed in following intuition, especially the powerful messages, the subtle ones I was still missing, like you miss when you try and sort of fly, but that one, it just said, yeah, it's done. And it's almost like I felt it switch off. Ironically, it was a switch, it just went off. But the way I envisioned it was a switch that went from physical to energetical. And I even visualized it looking like a giant electrical switch.
Yeah.
And I heard this clunk, and that was it. I went from, interesting, I almost went from logical thinking to spiritual thinking.
So was it like, where do you remember where you were, like when that happened? What?
I was at home in the kitchen.
Interesting.
Yeah, I remember it vividly, like the whole
And how long
vision
ago
of it
was
and
that?
everything.
How long ago was that?
2008.
My gosh. Isn't that
I
funny
mean,
how
I'd already been doing readings, but I'd already doing readings for friends, and the odd paid reading by then for years by then, but not really actively pursuing it as a full-time thing.
That's really interesting. So that's really interesting. It's funny how things will hit you like that, just suddenly,
Yeah.
And so go ahead. You were going to say.
Yeah. I was going to say, the interesting thing is, like a year prior to that, my Reiki energy kicked in, and for sort of sudden reason, my hands just started getting hot. And I'd never even heard of Reiki back then. And I intuitively went and bought some hematite, which is really good at grounding your energy. So it cooled my hands down. And that started when I got married almost. So it's almost like that's when the vampire started drawing the energy and was draining me. And this was just part of my teaching. I was able to look, I've got no animosity towards my ex-wife. I just saw her, I see her these days as just a powerful teacher. Part of my, who on a soul level, who we chose together actually, to invoke lessons within each other, because the word narcissist is bandied around so much these days, but nobody really truly understands what a narcissist purpose is. So they just complain about them all the time. And it's like, if you act as the student and realize what they're teaching you, you'll disarm them.
That's the thing, man. I'd say that quite frequently. It's like, and I think we even had this similar conversation when I was on with Aida, but this happens frequently, Roy. I think you probably have found in your type of work, there's there's a common thread of conversations that kind of come around quite a bit. And this is one of those things is you can either be the victim or the student of any given situation.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing how when you flip that switch, when you flip the switch from saying, okay, I'm no longer going to be a victim. Okay, my human emotions are doing what they're doing right now. but I am now going to make myself to be a student of this and see what I can learn, how I can grow from this, what I can do differently. It completely changes your perspective on how you view that. You may still
Yeah.
have frustration toward it or whatever, but it completely changes, like, emotionally, physically, the whole thing. When you flip this, you know what? I'm done being a victim. It's
Yeah.
it's not serving me. What can I learn from this? What can I
Yeah.
learn from?
That's exactly the term I use, student victim. In any given moment throughout your whole life, you're always at a T junction.
Mm-hmm,
And one turn left and it's student, turn right and it's victim.
mm-hmm,
Victim disempowers you, student empowers you.
mm-hmm.
So, and that's your choice. And
Yes.
if you take accountability for your choices, that, well, what am I going to be in this moment?
Yeah.
Am I going to be student or am I going to be victim?
Well, and there's a reason that thing made you feel that, that negative or whatever it is. It's
Yeah,
something that you need to work on yourself, right?
yeah.
It's,
It's
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 your it's your
triggering.
yeah, it's your smoke alarm that wakes you up at 2 a.m. to tell you to get out of the house when there's a fire.
Yeah, it's triggering your deep trauma. And the irony is, if you're over 20, or if you're over 16, even
Hmm.
whoever's triggering that was not the original trigger anyway.
No.
So
Yeah,
you're going, oh, this person's doing this to me, this person's doing that to me. It's like,
man,
well, they weren't the originals.
that's true. And so what I tell guys all the time, they'll come to me and they'll say, well, I'm just not sure how to handle that. And I give them 3 A's. You acknowledge it, you address it, and you take action. Say, okay, this came to me. This made me feel this kind of way. Let me then now take action on it. Right. In understanding, the first thing you do is acknowledge it. Thank you for this opportunity, because it's telling me there's something I need to work on. So you're no
Mm,
longer mad at that person. You're thankful for
yeah,
the challenge that it put in front of you.
yeah,
That
yeah. I
is so.
mean, the way I do it is go, can you stop an echo?
Mm,
And they go, no, you have to stop the person speaking. I went, exactly.
yeah.
So this person right now who's triggering you is an echo. So unless you go back to the person that's shouting, you ain't going to stop them.
Hmm.
You need to go to the original person, which 100% of the time is one of your parents.
Yeah. Almost
In
always.
fact, yeah, it depends. Whoever raised you is probably 99% of the time it's your parents. The other 1% is if you had carers.
Yeah. And I don't know if you find this in your work, but for me, commonly, it almost dates back to 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere right through there. Is there something in that age bracket is where we're having to do work?
Yeah, well, they've shown neurologically we hardwire our brains from the age of 0 to 7. So
Mm,
that's where we're learning all our habits.
mhm,
I constantly would use the word habit because most people understand what that word means.
mhm.
But what they don't understand is people think habits is smoking and drinking and
Yeah,
gambling, but it's not. Your habits are your thoughts around money, how you deal with money, how you deal with relationships, how you deal with others, how you make friends. And you've learned all this monkey see, monkey do from those you was around
that's
between the
it.
ages of 0 and 7. So if you was around criminals, habitual criminals doing criminal activity right in front of you between the ages of 0 and 7, that's your habit already.
Mhm.
If you was abused, that's your habit, and that's your
Yeah.
belief around sexuality,
Well,
which,
it's
but something inside your heart tells you that's wrong. So you have this disconnect, and
mhm,
that's what abuse creates. It creates a disconnect between your soul and your heart and what your morality, because no one's born evil; they learn it.
mhm. And I was thinking, it always makes me think about a optometry appointment. They prescribed you a certain strength of glasses. Well, that's your prescription that you were given, and so that's how you
Mm,
view the words, through those lenses.
yeah,
And you have to correct that.
yeah.
That's
I mean, I also believe that your soul contract's play got a part in that say as well in your life's mission, your life's purpose.
Mhm, mhm.
Because I doubt Hitler's parents were inherently evil. So
Right.
where so
Yeah,
so where did he learn that from? And I feel that's, well,
sure.
he had to do something, because you got to think about it, right? When you play student and victim, you can look at the war, the last great war, where millions of men died, millions of people died, should I say, um, and go, well, he was evil,
Mhm.
which on the simplistic nature you can do, yeah, but what was born out of the Second World War that's really powerful today that probably wouldn't have been born without the Second World War it's the thing we're using, which is the modern day computer.
That's it.
That was born in the Second World War.
Well, advances in medicine, all that kind of stuff. There were so many things
Yeah.
that came out of that.
Nuclear weaponry was also born out of the Second
Right.
World War as well. But you know,
The
but
opposite
but
end.
you know, but the thing is, like, you know, but interesting enough, I mean, Americans can say, well, either was Hitler. Well, what about you lot that invented nuclear weaponry to you fought evil with evil?
Yeah, yeah.
But then again, nuclear fission, the positive side of that, which has helped us understand quantum, which is basically the physical world catching up with the spiritual world. We knew about quantum, we just didn't call it that. We call it spiritual. We're just looking at the same thing from a different angle. So quantum was also born out of the Second World War. With great tragedy, when you overcome it, there's great positivity. There's always, we're in a universe of duality, so there's always a balance. So if there's something that's massively evil, it's like, okay, well, where's the massive positive out of it? I mean, look, this is very controversial, if that's okay, being controversial.
Yeah.
You know, I like to delve deep into people's shadows just for the fun of it. Take a mass shooting, right, at a school. Who's to say that one of those kids wasn't the next Hitler? We just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
They might all be sweet and innocent. It's a tragedy, of course. I really dislike when kids are, you know, it's one of my, is my pet hate, because they're our future. We've got to nurture our future and teach kids how to love themselves, and you solve a lot of problems in the next generation.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I did with my son. I said, you are responsible for your love. Don't give it away. You're responsible for your happiness. Don't give it away. Don't give it away to games, people, alcohol, anything.
I think part of that too is I feel that we don't have the capacity to love others any more than we love ourselves. So it has to start with you, you know?
Yes, it's a learned habit. And the good thing is these days, there's a lot of people starting to wake up, and that first part of the journey is realizing, okay, I'm responsible for my love. How do what's the next step? And one of the next steps is putting up boundaries. And quite often there's a meme that goes around going, oh, so you've lost friends and family, and welcome to a spiritual awakening.
You must have put
you lose all the vampires. You lose all the people that were no longer serving you, that were reminding you that you were playing victim. And then when you started playing student, they don't want to be at that school. So you change your vibration. You don't, and because vibration is essentially magnetism. And when you vibrate at this level, the magnetism, so the magnetic field, which is an electrical thing, which I learned as being an electrician, the magnetic field has this kind of parameter. Anything outside of that, because our magnetism works, it pushes it away. Anything within that, it attracts it. We are magnetic beings.
Yeah.
So you're either attracting
back and forth all the time.
You're either attracting what you resonate with or pushing things away that you don't resonate with. So when you don't resonate with a friend anymore, they're not in your magnetic field. So that there's no longer an attraction for something in your life.
And there's nothing wrong with auditing that out of your life.
Absolutely not.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. So for those unfamiliar with the concept MENS health, can you explain what it entails and its significance in achieving overall well-being?
Yeah. So my passion these days is, it's easy for women to be intuitive because that's their natural thing. Because it's an energy that sits on the feminine side. Men tap into it by going too effeminate, and then they lose their masculinity, which is also a shame. And I'm not homophobic in any way, shape, or form, but often they do step into that because they feel to be completely effeminate, that they've got to be more feminine, so therefore they reject the masculine, which therefore they reject the irony is they reject the females to kind of connect to their feminine side. It's the universe. One of the universe's main energy is irony. I love it. You know? It's the second most powerful force in the universe. The first is love. The second is irony. And when you look at the world, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So I want to empower men to utilize intuition, because it's such a powerful tool that we don't work with. We work with logic. But logic's purpose is to go, well, that doesn't make sense. Intuition, what's going on? Whereas we go, that doesn't make sense, and use our logic, which is just a highly evolved set of computations with this brain of ours that's based on opinions of others, what we've learned, what we've read, what we've watched, which is essentially nowhere near the truth. It's just a highly evolved assessment that gets nowhere near what's actually happening. And then we follow that assessment, and it's more simply known as Occam's razor, or the most obvious answer is usually the right one.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Occam's razor is in its most simplest form. And so to tune men into their intuition, you have to help men understand mental, emotional, natural, or physical, and spiritual. Tune them into all 4 elements of their body. Help them manage their mind, the monkey mind, because that's the one that's normally overrunning, and that's their ego. Help them manage their emotions. We're taught to suppress them because it's weak to be emotional, and it really isn't. It's absolutely not. It's imperative for us to be able to manage and release and express what we feel, because we're human beings, and that's part of our nature, is to feel. The natural, well, I changed natural to physical because so men's could fit, to be blatantly honest. But to be our natural selves. So if you don't, like, I can only speak to help people understand. I can only speak my experience. I didn't really want to be an electrician. I was an artistic type. I was very in tune back then, so I was very creative. And electrical is very logical. Wire, point A to point B, flick switch, it goes on. You can't be creative around it. I wanted to be an artist or something like that, but my parents didn't encourage me because they were working class, and they did the cliche, have a trade, you'll never work, you'll always have a job. Have a trade, and then you'll always have a job that you can fall back on. And then, so I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a photographer or something like that was creative, but I wasn't guided that way. And at the time, I wasn't consciously aware enough to make that choice myself. So anyway, but it led me to Australia. So, it had its purposes and soul contract. So that's the natural side of it. Be your natural self, irregardless of anyone else. In other words, please yourself. And then spiritual is, there's more out there than just you. Whether you believe in God, Allah, the Buddha, Vishnu. The irony is, even if you're an atheist, there's something that you choose that's greater than you. You might go, well, there's quantum physics. It's just saying God, but in different words. It's exactly. It's that thing that's creating this universe that we're part of that I can never comprehend. It's that, because the brain, it's like no computer can comprehend the whole internet. It would melt the processor. It's exactly the same principle as when we think about the universe and it's ever expanding. And depending on your belief, you might be a flat earther that doesn't believe there's a universe and there's a localized sun and everything. No. Look, and interesting enough, I mean, I've looked into this actually a lot, and I feel the Flurfer's journey is one of rejection of. I thought of one example. They might have been told growing up that they were stupid. And this is only one hypothetical scenario. And so the way and that became a habit. So then they choose to misunderstand thermodynamics, physics, light refraction, and basic chemistry and basic physics. That's because there's a guy I watch on YouTube that debunks all the Flurfers, and he does it with succinct physics and maths and everything like that. So like talk the moon landings. People say it never happened. Well, it's a misunderstanding of thermodynamics, because they talk about, well, we can't get through the Van Allen belt. Well, when you understand thermodynamics, the aluminium frame of the rocket that went through it dissipates that Van Allen belt radiation extremely quickly. Like, it just simply can't heat it up because there's not enough molecules in the Van Allen belt to counteract the molecules that are in aluminium. Yeah. So it's thermodynamics.
Yeah.
And you also, I mean, the way I always look at it going, the amount of people you'd have to silence that would speak out and say, yeah, it was faked, was too huge compared to how easy it was in comparison to
Of course.
that,
Yeah.
how easy it was to actually do it. And
Mhm.
therefore you then come into the realm of Occam's razor. The most obvious answer is usually the right one. When you start saying, well, yeah, well, they didn't do it. And so I'm like, yeah, but there was hundreds of thousands of people involved from around the world because they had to use a dish in Australia to track the rocket. Like, how are you going to silence everybody? Because people naturally freaking talk.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
do.
Yeah.
So someone would have leaked, and you can't, and oh yeah, but NASA, blah blah blah. I'm like, NASA didn't have the resources to silence everybody back then. They were too
No,
focused
not
on
then.
sending a
They don't
freaking rocket
understand.
to the
Yeah.
moon.
They don't understand that.
So Men in Black weren't around back then, really, and so look at it. Obviously, they couldn't silence everybody. So the most
Yeah.
obvious answer was they went.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's going to be some things that only the astronauts probably knew. There's probably more that side of it going. They found
Sure.
things that's why they didn't really go up much after that, because they didn't need to.
Mhm.
The dark side of the moon and all that lot. Aliens walk amongst us, which I truly believe,
Mm.
simply because there's too many sightings. There's too many unknown things. Too many things that come out down the rabbit holes. There's just too much information out there to suggest that there's not that.
Mm.
Plus my own intuitive guidance and things that I've seen and felt without being on hallucinogens. Throughout my whole spiritual journey, I've rarely done hallucinogens. I've actually had some of my most powerful visions just as I'm drifting off to sleep.
Mhm.
So even when I've been lucid but conscious and haven't been on alcohol or caffeine or anything like that, I've lived quite a very clean lifestyle.
Mhm.
And for that purpose, I'm going, I wasn't high on mushrooms or LSD or anything like that. I saw that with my own eyes, and I'd literally just been, I wasn't even playing a computer game related to what I saw.
Mhm.
I was playing Football Manager. So when you see a dragon come into your bedroom when you've been playing Football Manager, or not even watching a dragon movie, and you weren't drunk or you weren't high, and I'd barely got into bed, you
Mhm.
tend to think, okay, what do you do with that information?
So you think they walk amongst us? So as just like me showing up to you today, I would be if you ran into an alien walking amongst. They look just like us. You're not talking about a spiritual walking thing, but an
Physical,
actual
yeah.
physical.
Yeah. Look, Hollywood is that when you go down the rabbit hole in regards to the dark side, because there's
Mhm.
dark and light. We're in a universe of dualities. You have to have the balance.
Yin and yang, all that stuff. Yeah.
The way they trap us is they tell us what they're doing. That's how, in a strange way, that's how magical hexes work. It's like me going, I'm going to curse you,
Mm.
but I do it a lot more subtly.
Yeah.
And then I curse you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All I'm doing is actually changing your belief and manipulating you, so then you believe the curse.
Mhm.
A curse is only as powerful. It's only powerful if you believe it,
Mhm.
because free will.
Right.
Because ultimately, if let's say we were housemates, and every day I was calling you an idiot, and then after a year you started believing it.
Mhm.
At some point, you'd have to make that conscious choice to believe it. If you didn't do that, I could call you an idiot for 1,000 years and you wouldn't be an idiot, because you
Mhm.
didn't choose at any point to believe it. You didn't, in other words, you didn't allow me in your boundary. You didn't believe me to be stronger than you with what I was calling you. That's essentially what a hex curse
Mhm.
is. It's just you believe in something that somebody else told you over what you know yourself to be.
And over time, you've hypnotized yourself to believe that. Is
Yeah.
what you.
And then it becomes a habit because you've repeated it
Mhm.
and strengthened it, and therefore replaced the original habit that you're clever and smart,
Mhm.
and allowed that to supersede it.
Yeah.
And the way to do it is just reverse the process.
So, kind of going back, you'd mentioned. I'm curious. I have a question for you based on this intuition. We use that, right? We talk about intuition often in this world, particularly in this kind of world that you and I are talking about. Those that are, I mean, you're much more than I am. Obviously, you have spirit and you speak to all that sort of thing. Mine is just the meditation and being attuned to universal energies and all that kind of stuff. I think, is there a fine line? Are they close cousins? Intuition and emotion. So here's let me unpack that a little bit. So I think so. One of the things that I do for to earn money is I coach. I do corporate sales training, and one thing that I train people to understand is like when you're in front of somebody and they're making a decision and they say, "Hey, I need to pray about it, I need to think about it, whatever." I said they really don't. That's a distraction because people make decisions based on emotion and justify it with logic later. So with thinking about that. Um, do you think intuition is a close cousin of emotion, but
No,
we sometimes misinterpret it?
no,
No.
they're very different things. So you have your spiritual energy.
Hmm.
I'll do the on screen.
Yeah.
Then
That
you
way we
go
can see.
to, yeah. Then that rules emotions,
Mm,
which then rules logic, which then rules actions.
mm.
So your action is always a direct choice from your spiritual. Highly intuitive people are just more aware of the top
Can your
tier,
intuition impact your emotion though?
100%.
Yeah.
Intuition rules everything.
Mm.
So if you had a pie graph, the
So when you
higher
say
the
spiritual, when you said, I'm sorry, you said spiritual.
intuition, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
spiritual energy is intuition because it's that,
Gotcha.
because logic works it out, as I explained earlier about how our logic works. It
Hmm.
tries to work it out based on our knowledge, what we've learned from others, what we've watched, what we've read in books, and comes to a
Those
conclusion.
filters, all those things that we've done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and comes to a conclusion, and it does it in milliseconds.
Hmm.
And but what spirit? So it works it out. Intuition just knows, doesn't do any working out. It just looks
Hmm.
into the internet and the spiritual internet, the ether, the universe, God, whoever you use, and goes, all right, so that's why this is happening.
Hmm.
What's the best choice for me right now?
Hmm.
So, and it has intuition more often than not has no rhyme or reason or logic, simply because logic, when you use logic, is completely wrong.
Mm.
So they never match.
That
Whereas,
makes
because the
sense.
reason logic is wrong, because logic's purpose / it's in the pie chart scenario, the analogy. A pie chart, if you're in your perfect harmony in a pie chart, you have intuition as 98% of the pie,
Mm.
ego/fear has 1% of the pie, and logic has the other 1%.
Mm.
That's how you should operate ideally, but nobody, I mean, even on my best days in full intuition, my intuition is at 70%.
Mm. So how
So,
does one
so
get
I'm giving
that's
14% worth of power to my fear.
that's interesting. I like I hadn't thought about it that way. Intuition and emotion. That's really, really good. So how does one get to the point where they're operating more in the intuition? What type of things are we doing? Is it meditation? What are those kind of things? Because I don't know that I think a lot of people walk around, they're not really aware. Like you talked about earlier, having these small signs, you swatted them away. Is that those kind of things that are showing up to try to get you attuned to that? How do we make sure we're aware of that? We accept those in and operate more in the 70, 75, percentage.
There's such a range of things, and everybody's journey is different.
Hmm.
Um, Awareness is one of them, or even, in fact, no, that's even later down the track. The first step is to go, okay, I am going to start working with intuition more,
Mm.
which means you're also
So
saying,
acknowledging the fact that you're going to do it is the first
yeah,
step. Okay.
which then you're also saying, okay, logic, I'm going to listen to you less,
Mm.
which is then also saying to external people, I'm not listening to you ever again.
Mm.
Because when I have a conversation with people, and also you've got to get comfortable with being coming across rude and ignorant,
Mm.
because you're going to be you're going to start waking up, so you're going to be dealing with everybody that still wants to be asleep.
Mm.
So they're going to look at you going, you've just gone weird. What's up
Mm.
with you? What's changed? What have you done? Who's influenced you? And their logic will be working overtime to try and figure out who's changed you, even though because they don't trust that you've made that choice yourself, because they've got a vision of you that they've known for, let's say, 3 years minimum. And so they've got a consistent action of you
Mhm.
agreeing with them.
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
minute you don't, they go, well, what's happened? What's happened? And what's happening is their fear is kicking in.
Mhm.
Oh, because deep inside they're going, I'm going to lose a friend here, because their intuition's still working. They just don't listen to it. but it's still talking. And their intuition is going, your friend's just waking up. And they're
So
going, la, 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 la.
yeah, is that the hardest part is saying, okay, I'm going to work with the acknowledgement piece of it. I'm going to work with it. Once you break through that, and of course, all those ripple effects, I would say it's a positive if people are not any longer attracted to you, right? Because then they weren't supposed to be there to begin with. Once you get past that, do you find that being in that intuition pie is easier to stay in?
Yeah, look, it takes courage to get there. That's the challenge. You're breaking out of a very strong bubble. But unless you're much younger.
Comfort there, right? I mean, we're scared.
Yeah, the comfort zone. Yeah, the comfort zone is the one thing I've used this phrase many times. The comfort zone is the killer of men.
Oh God, yes.
And the universe, your intuition, your higher self, doesn't like you being comfortable. So get comfortable being uncomfortable. There's the irony again.
That's it. Yeah.
The comfort zone kills you, but you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Get comfortable with being courageous and pissing people off. Because to wake up and to start working with intuition, you're going to have to do this, because you're going to have to go against the masses that are asleep, that aren't working with intuition, that are using their logic, that are just doing the night, And I get the comfort zone, people have got families and stuff like that. And it does take a lot of courage to break out of it. But the benefits, because you start getting insights into your own life, this is where I do my life, I choose me. It's essentially what you're really doing is choosing you above absolutely everybody.
So when you
and you get comfortable with that.
So if you were to say to the audience right now, and you have people listening, they say, "Man, I really want to do this. I want to commit to this." Is to acknowledging intuition and working with it. What's the thing that they do to start the kind of the ball rolling, so to speak? Is it they say it out loud, and do they repeat it every morning when they get up, before they go to bed? Like, what's kind of a good routine to give somebody?
Yeah, good question. That's one thing to do. What you just said there is because you're starting to build a new habit. And to build a new habit, you've got to replace the old one. But the interesting thing, the old one runs until the new habit activates. So even if the old habit is, let's talk two graphs, one going up, one going down, and this is the old habit that's 100%, and this is the new habit that's at 1%. And as you switch the energies, you're draining energy from one to the next. And even when it's like this, and this is the old habit, let's say at 20%, and this is the new habit at 80%, this one's still running the show. And in other words, still creating your outer reality. But the minute it gets to 81, it flips. And this new habit starts working, and you feel all weird. You go, oh, something's changed, because you feel it. And then what happens is, when you continue your process of building that new habit, your outer reality starts reflecting back that new habit is running. So let's, the most common one, let's say, you're changing your habit around money. So you had the old habit of money doesn't grow on trees and all those kind of negative statements, whereas you go, well, actually, money does grow on trees. I'm really wealthy. I'm abundant. And all of a sudden, your outer reality, instead of people giving you $80 for a 1 hour session, someone goes, oh, you start getting told you're not charging enough. You're not charging enough. Well, what you're giving me is too valuable. You need to put your price up. Listen to them. That's how the universe talks to you. Put your price up, because that's another, in regards to the question you asked, that's one of the key components is repetition. In other words, the universe starts responding back to you. Do you still want to keep doing this? So you start to see something over and over again. You start to see numbers. You start to see numbers in trebles. You start to see images in trebles. But we dismiss it because we're not fluent with how intuition works in regards to the outer reality. So you miss the fact that you've seen a horse 15 times in the last 3 days. You just go, oh, I've seen a lot of horses. That's odd.
Yeah.
That's the universe talking to. When you make any kind of statement like that, read up what a horse means on spiritual reasons. And that's because the challenge is we're in a habit of living logically. So we're actually in a habit of being disconnected from from intuition. So when we have to work with intuition, because intuition doesn't speak directly, it speaks in parables and metaphors and experiences. And this tiny little whisper of a voice doesn't speak loud. It doesn't need to, because it speaks knowingly. It speaks direct into your core of your being. But it'll go like, walk over there. And it'll only say it once, but then you'll feel a nudge. Some people might even feel a physical nudge to go, oh, I need to walk over there. So it doesn't even speak. You just get a sense. So you start living on a sense. And in the beginning, you're going to distrust it to absolute hell. And that's where the courage comes in. You go, well, I distrust it, but I'm going to follow it anyway. And then, because as strong as my intuition is, it still whispers to me and it does my head in, to be honest. I'm like, why can't you just talk loud? The answer I always get is, you hear it, don't you? You listen to it, don't you? So why do we need to talk loud? That's just my human self wants it a bit easier.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had the odd occasion over the years where it's spoken loud, and when it's done that, I've gone, wow, because it's kind of going like, when a parent goes, come on, kids, it's time to leave because you're going to school, compared to when the house is on fire. Kids, we need to get the fuck out of it now.
Right.
Because of the tone and everything, you're like, okay, this is fucking serious. I'm not even going to argue here out. Whereas, like, if you go, come on, kids, we've got to go. You're going to school, you'll argue and drag your feet. And whereas when it's said in this way, you don't argue, you just get out of the fucking house. So, and that's kind of like how intuition works. It nudges, but when it's really important stuff, because everybody, I can guarantee everybody over the age of 15 has had an experience with gut instinct. That's intuition, people.
So that's how
intuition just talking through us.
So you talk about, in the research, you talk about activating intuitive superpowers. This is how you do that. This is how you activate that.
Yeah. You don't have to do it through meditation. Meditation is a common way. But one thing I've learned over the years is people don't understand meditation. No. They think, oh, I'm going to lie down and I'm going to get intuitive messages. The first 10 times of meditating, minimum, the first 10 times of meditating, minimum, and meditating for 15 minutes when you're using the cliche method of meditation, lying there with music on, going on, which is when you say meditation, that's literally what most people think of.
I know.
For the first 10 minimum, you're actually learning to calm the monkey mind down.
That's it.
And the thing is, a lot of people don't even realize that's what they're doing. So they don't therefore calm the monkey mind down. What they do is for the first 10 times they go, oh, my mind's just still racing. I can't meditate.
So it's funny you say that. Like,
so they don't understand meditating because they just, whereas,
and I think too, like one of the things I say, Roy, is to them is like, they'll say, Scott, how do you do it? How do you get in that? They'll say, I was like, well, you may not ever really get there, but if you're ready to say, but I can't. When I hear a bird or I hear a tractor off in the distance. We'll focus on that. There's a reason why that's present. Focus on, then try to focus beyond that, and then try to focus beyond that. And then think about, let's also try to get to your essence by thinking about where you actually are physically in the world. Okay, I'm
right.
here.
Can I just interject here and
stop? Go ahead, please. Yeah, please.
See, you're trying to teach people meditation whilst using the word thinking.
Yeah.
If you think about this, and what you're doing is telling them to activate their monkey mind.
Well, what I mean is, what I'm talking about is what I mean.
But this is the thing, like the way the brain works, it can't understand negative concepts. It just understands what you tell it to do. So when you say don't think, the brain will go, it won't hear the word don't.
That's what I'm
saying.
Word think. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So this is how I teach people meditation. The reason I'm stopping you is because, to be bluntly honest, that's wrong. From my opinion, from my experience. So what I tell people to do is just go, right.
Not to think. I don't tell them. I tell them to whatever's present.
Focus.
That's what you focus, because then it helps you focus beyond that.
But you don't focus. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. You don't focus, because focus is a mind thing. Surrender is an intuition thing. When you focus on anything, you are literally thinking about it.
So let's use that example. You hear a bird and they want to not, focus. They just surrender to the fact that that's there and surrender into that sound. Yeah. Is that what you're saying, to kind of relieve themselves into it?
Yeah. That's a bird. So what? Next. So this is how I teach people meditation, especially the first 10 times. I've never done it before. You use the word next. So whatever comes. So when the first time, it's all going to be life stuff, bills, washing, chores, people who's pissed you off. all your victim choices are going to come up first, and you just go next, next, next. Swipe. You're swiping right. You're playing Tinder with your mind.
Yeah.
Next, 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 and what I've found is now around the 10th time you'll go next, and then all of a sudden there'll be no thought. That's where you remain, and it's going to feel super uncomfortable because it's the first time your mind has been quiet. And when it's quiet, whatever drops in next. But afterwards you get up, but afterwards then you make a note of it afterwards.
Yeah.
And then you look it up. So you don't focus on it when you meditate and just go, all right, because here's the thing with surrender. If you're meant to remember it, you will. If you're not meant to remember it, then it's another deep thought from somewhere.
It wasn't meant to serve you anyway, right? Yeah.
It's not there to serve you. It's just that when you not clear your mind, if you haven't got energetic boundaries up, anything can drop in and talk. So it might not necessarily be intuition or one of your guides.
You said it much more eloquently. That's basically what I was saying, but I just didn't unphrase it or unpack it correctly. When I was talking about, you hear the bird, fine, and then you go beyond that. Like, just let that be what it's going to be, and then whatever else pops in, that tractor off in the distance, then that's what it's supposed to be, and then you go beyond that. You unpacked that much better than I did, because this is what you do for a living. I don't.
I've explained it that many times, and
no, it's very good. It's good.
When you explain my bio at the start of the show, this is what one of my gifts is. I'm able to take intuition and spiritual stuff and translate it into layman's terms English. That means the monkey mind can easily understand it, because the reason we resist things, because this is logic's job. It's there to protect us. And it will do that to its dying breath. And we've got layers of ego that, so going back to the pie chart analogy, ego and fear, or ego and logic only have 1% of our power, but when we give it too much, it has too much power. And when things have too much power, they misuse it. So when we give our fear too much power, it misuses it, and we think things that are dangerous that really aren't. So what ego's job is to keep us safe, and therefore fear's job is to keep us safe. Is that dangerous road that's got 1,000 cars zooming across it? Don't just walk across it; you're going to die. So the easiest way to explain it is ego and fear stops us doing stupid deaths. There's a cliff there. There's a cliff there. Don't walk over the edge of it.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas, like, when we give it too much power, we'll go, oh, there's a spider in the corner. It's going to kill us. Oh, and we panic. Whereas we don't know if it's a deadly spider or not, or a venomous spider. It might just be a normal house spider. That's not going to fucking kill us. It's not going to do anything. It's just going to feel weird if it runs over our foot. So you see that's where the irrational fears comes in. Whereas intuition would instantly know whether that spider's venomous or not, and is going to kill us or not, because it'll feel the energy. It'll feel the energy of that spider and that spider's intentions. Logic cannot feel people's intentions. It will only try and work it out. And we work it out through a heap of fear that we've been taught of everybody. Oh, that man in the street who's walking behind me, he's a mugger, he's going to kill me. And it's just some random dude that lives in the same apartment block that seen hundreds. But your irrational fear that goes, oh, he's walking behind me. And so
fear is false evidence, right? I mean, it's
false emotions appearing real.
Yeah, and I think Dean Koontz talked about intuition is seeing with the soul. So that's really what you're trying to do, right?
It's a knowing. So rather than working it out, you know it. And the only way to know it is to clear the monkey mind from trying to work it out. Because logic's one and only job is to go, right, I've seen that thing over there. So a piece of, like, the way I defeat logic is through roughly estimating the statistical odds of that thing happening, which again reverts back to Occam's razor, the most obvious answer. So often spirit, intuition, God, you insert denomination here, put random objects at our feet. But when you work at the statistical odds of that thing actually being there at that time for you to see it, the odds are always, always, always astronomical. So therefore, the most obvious answer is it's meant to be there. So therefore, it's meant to be there. You're meant to notice it. So then you look at the details of what it is. So let's say it's a piece of paper. Let's say it's even a chocolate wrapper even. And chocolate wrappers. Like one of my favorite chocolate bars is called a double decker. It's English Cadbury. I just love it. So let's say it's a double decker wrapper, right?
Your weakness.
So those two words, double decker, are important. Now, because intuition is not logical, you then have to wait for what appears in your realm that immediately matches double decker. So, and here's what happens is if you use logic, you'll try and work it out, and then you start getting further away from the truth. Because Occam's razor, its more complicated explanation is the more you have to theorize and bring outside concepts into the internal concept to work out what's going on, the further away from the truth that you are, because you're not using the internal concepts. So statistical odds have suggested that, when you work it out, you're nowhere near a chocolate shop. You're definitely nowhere near an English chocolate shop. So where the hell did this English chocolate wrapper come from? Oh, and logic will go, oh, someone threw it out of a car. You're making such a leap of assumption and presumption, you're nowhere near the truth. Because that's logic trying to justify why it's being there rather than and what it should do is go, there's an English chocolate wrapper here. That's weird. What is that doing there? Okay, that's not a logical thing. Intuition, up to you. So intuition goes, right, I've received the information. Thanks, logic, for telling me that doesn't make sense. That's logic's job. It doesn't make sense. So that's another first part of using intuition, to realize what doesn't make sense. Like, for instance, like say you sat at a cafe in the middle of a city and you get an ant on your hand. Where the fuck's an ant come from?
Yeah.
When you're in the middle of a city. And people go, yeah, but there's ant hills everywhere. In the middle of a city? Statistical odds, one literally just crawling up would have had to have crawled up your leg. You're wearing shorts, up your arm, across your thing, and appear there without you feeling it or seeing it. Yeah, right. Statistical odds alert. So what do ants mean spiritually? They mean patience. But so, this double decker message, and then all of a sudden, like, let's say you're even in London, or no, you're not in London. Let's say you're in America. And then 5 minutes later, you sat having a coffee at a cafe, you sat outside, it's a nice day. You don't normally see double-decker buses. And then this double-decker bus comes past and it's got an advert on it for a course around something that you've been wanting to do. And then it stops right next to you. So you can take the number of that course or the website of that course. That's the universe, in other words, your internal self, because you know your journey. And intuition helps you tune into that journey so you can follow it a lot easier. That's the universe going, do that course. And that will start because you took notice of a double-decker wrapper at your feet and didn't dismiss it as a piece of litter. That's, in a different term, that's God working in mysterious ways. That's another analogy of it.
For those that are, the other side of it, I've had people say to me, well, how do I know that that's not, and apologize if this is wrong phrasing, negative intuition, just trying to keep me from staying the course?
Intuition is never negative because it just knows. It's one of the few things in the universe that's inherently positive. Well, it's actually neither. It's neither positive or negative. It just is.
It just is. Yeah.
So there's a difference between truth, human truth, which again is just a collection of opinions that we fight for so strongly, we consider it truth, and it's just our truth. Whereas there's energetic truth, whereas it is what it is. So here's an example. You really enjoy a particular brand of soda water. The energetic truth is it's soda water. Your human opinion truth is this is really amazing soda water. It's the best soda water in the world. You add all these superlatives of it's amazing, and then what happens is when someone wants to drink a different brand, you'll try and convince them of your truth. Whereas when you surrender, you go, yeah, it's just soda water. That just happens for whatever reason that I haven't looked into on an energetic level yet of why I feel that is that particular brand is really amazing to me. And if you really tuned into it, it could be that there's one particular word, or that brand makes it with a certain type of water from a different part of the world that resonates with your body better. And that's why you find it amazing. But at the end of the day, the simple truth, the Occam razor truth, it's soda water.
Mm-hmm.
That's truth, because that's literally what it is. That's
So,
undeniable.
so the biggest battle do you think that people have on a daily basis, is it a battle between logic, intuition, meaning they're allowing too much logic to control kind of the daily?
Yeah. We're all control freaks.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that says they're a control freak are a liar, because there's somewhere in their life that they're trying to control it.
Yeah.
Like I'm fully averse with intuition. I'm still a control freak,
Mm-hmm.
because there's still a logical part of me that likes order. The good thing is I've tuned into why, so I've surrendered to it. So in other words, I don't find it an issue when people say, "Oh, you're OCD and a control freak." Yeah, fucking too right out. Because in other words, I don't give them the power. I don't give
Yeah.
my power away for their belief to be stronger than mine, because they still find OCD people weird.
Yeah.
The reason I like order is because I can feel energy,
Yeah.
and not just energy in people, but energy in inanimate objects.
Mm-hmm.
And this is no word of a lie. Freaking coat hangers talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
So they like to be rotated.
Yeah.
Nothing's inanimate energetically. At an energetic level, nothing is inanimate. Everything is energy. So when I feel, I mean, that's just the way I speak it. They talk to me. I just feel the energy of that stuck energy. So I need to keep moving it because I feel it. And then because I feel at such a sensitive level, it makes me, so I need to rotate to keep calmness in my world. And the more calm I am, the more powerful my intuition is, the more I'm able to tune in. And when you think about, you're in this room now that's quite sparse, I'm still surrounded by 300-400 things that are all, if one of those is out of place, I'll feel it.
Yeah.
And then I'm uncomfortable.
So
Then I'll
two
need to
things.
put it where it needs to be.
So anything that ever has or will be was created with energy. And then two, I'm actually diagnosed OCD. So I appreciate when people acknowledge it, see it, and say, that's weird. It's like, yeah, I'm
No, it's
unique.
not.
I'm cool. I'm fine. Cool. I'm glad
So
that you
so I
know.
changed the OCD, which is more it's a fear-based statement. You're just energy sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
So I mean, look, I mean,
And it doesn't
depending
like,
on what I'm like in the moment, I'll go to people and I'll say, look, I'm not OCD, I'm just energy sensitive,
well,
which
and
you
for me,
don't
like,
understand.
for me, that's not a negative thing. When people say
No.
that, they acknowledge them like, yeah, I absolutely am OCD. Like I take it as a badge. I'm happy to wear that, you know. So
Yeah.
when I was younger, I didn't quite understand it and didn't know what,
Yeah.
like, why I would do things a little bit differently, but I fully embrace it, man. I fully
Yeah.
embrace it.
And the more thing we understand is the reason we go to understand things is so logic goes, basically what happens is when we understand things and surrender it, we get to a stage where our fear and ego go, that's not dangerous anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to assess it every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. And then that part of your ego dies.
Mm-hmm.
So you go through an ego death. And then your intuition, then that intuition slice of pie gets bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And the slice of pie that you give into fear and ego gets less.
Mm-hmm.
But ego and fear fight to the death. They don't like dying. Even though the irony is they die, they're the ones that die in the end anyway, when we die as a human.
Mm-hmm.
Fear and ego, if you want to look at it in a different way, it's just our operating system in this earth. We need it for this earth physical world as our operating system. It's our spacesuit, fear and ego.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So your current mission is to empower men to activate the king within, is what you say. What inspired this focus, and what are some key aspects of this empowerment journey?
Yeah, well, look, because and I'm slightly averse to this because society is an illusion. When you actually challenge what society believe and get, if you could ever do this in a physical level and get 100 people together and ask them that, none of the opinions of 100 people would never match what society's belief is ever.
You froze. I don't know if it's me or you. You there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think you're back.
Yeah, I just swapped over to my phone internet because I know
Let me
sometimes
get.
my internet here drops out.
It was good too. So we were talking about the.
Activating the king within.
That's it. Activate the king with him. Yep.
Yeah, so there's a really big push in society to emasculate men.
Mm-hmm.
That we're not, that men are useless thing. When we literally build everything, the whole infrastructure and everything that you live in and phones that you use, And that's not to take anything away from women at all. This is a balanced society that, if you really go down the rabbit hole, it's the reason they split up the nuclear family, because a woman that empowers a man that protects a woman and a child, that woman and their children, because the nuclear family is 2.4 children, they then also keep governments in check. And that's what they've been destroying for many, many years now. So, and because governments are running amok right now and not looking after the people, you think about the medieval times, as soon as a king became a despot, the pitchforks came out, and the king didn't last for long because the guards were also part of the people. You know, there's only so much money a billionaire could pay a police force before they realize they're part of the people and they're getting screwed too. And then all of a sudden that billionaire, he might have billions and billions of dollars, but he's only one person and he can't stop the millions of people with pitchforks. But it takes a group of men to come together to go, the women and children and the weak and the old are being harmed. It's our job to stand up. And so revolution, where, you know, men empowered create revolutions, not necessarily pitchforks and Molotov cocktails, but they come together and go, we're not doing this anymore. You either change what you're doing, or we will get the Molotovs and pitchforks. And the people that protect you, by the way, they're on our side. But we can only do that when we believe that we're a benevolent king. A benevolent king rules the kingdom with fairness, not with justice, with fairness. You know, the old analogy of, like, you know, you get the two villagers come to the king and go, well, he stole my goat, and yeah, but your goat, I didn't steal your goat, it just wandered into my paddock, and then you got an arsey about it. And the benevolent king goes, right, I've listened to both your stories. You know what? And he looks at the situation as a whole after having a chat with them and going, well, you've got 50 goats. He's only got 3. Now he's got 4 because one of yours wandered over. I don't care whether he's lying or not, but you've still got 99 goats. So he keeps the goat. Suck it up. That's fair. You see, there's no justice there. And what he's saying to the guy going, but it's one of my goats. Like, let it go. For whatever reason, that goat wanted to go over there. Trust the goat.
Yeah.
So he basically followed what the goat wanted to do and ignored the 2 people in this little story. But that's fairness. And when a king, when you're fair with yourself, you don't deal justice. Because you think about how justice works. Whoever's got the most money to pay the best lawyer.
That's it.
That's not justice. You know, I hate any harm coming to children. Paedophiles shouldn't be allowed an expensive lawyer. If there's definitive proof and they've got caught with all a load of shit ton of pictures on there shouldn't even be a bloody trial, in my opinion, because fairness dictates you were doing, and irregardless of whether because the statistics show that they were abused too. At some point, you've got to create that fire break and call the paedophiles so that they're not creating more paedophiles. But then, you know, where the police work should come into it, go, right, who's connected? Because, you know, let's say he was a working class man who had a wife. There's no way she didn't know what was going on. So then she became complicit. So then fairness would come with her judgment. Like, you clearly knew about it. No, I didn't. He was always in a room on his own. You're a woman with intuition.
Yeah.
You knew something was going on. You know, so
you might not have knew exactly, but there's something that your intuition was telling you, right?
Because and interesting, this is where society can be quite accurate. Women always know what the fuck's going on. To be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in enough relationships. I've been married and I'm married again. They just know. You can't hide stuff. And I'm very good at closing my energy down and making it black. But even then, Aida especially would go, well, there's black energy there, so he's hiding too.
You definitely can.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah, you definitely. So
so the fact that they would know that something bad was going on, because here's where energy works. With energy, you can't hide anything. You cannot turn energy off. So going back to the spider analogy, if that spider's intention is to bite you because it doesn't like you because it's been watching you kill its friends for the past year and it's coming for you, you're going to know that.
Yeah.
And then you go into self-preservation, fight or flight mode, and it's you versus the spider, which invariably means the spider's going to lose unless it sneaks up on you and you don't see it.
You don't see it. Yeah.
So
So
the great, the great irony is when things are meant to happen to you, when it's your time to go, intuition doesn't bloody tell you anyway.
Yeah. It's like the movie Final Destination. They try to escape, but it's like, oh, it's your time.
It's your time. When it's your time, it's your time. And you just, sometimes you're going to know it's your time and you accept it. And the irony is the people that know it's their time surrender to it.
Yeah.
Because sod all I can do.
Yeah.
In other words, they've stopped trying to fight it with fear and logic. They've stopped trying to control it.
So my father.
So when we surrender to our life does get less stressful because we allow the things that are meant to happen without the resistance of it.
So my mother said my father was an abusive alcoholic, and my mother tells me the day that he passed away, when he was leaving the house, he said, "Hey, I just want you to know I appreciate you and I love you." Said he hadn't done that in years. He knew something was up. He knew something was going to happen that day. He didn't vocalize it, but there was something in him, in his intuition, that's like, I got to let her know because I'm not going to see her again. So kind of as we're talking about men's conformity to stereotypes and things like that, right? How can men embrace their divine sovereignty and express their authentic selves?
Well, for me, it's about owning who you are, owning your place in your world. So if you are married with kids, your job on an energetic level is to protect them. That's who we naturally are. So that's accepting there's the N, the natural. It's our natural job to protect us because we're born physically stronger. We're born with that fire inside us to fight, to protect people. We're born with that. We can't turn it off. Even if you cross the divide and decide to choose that you're gay, you're still going to have things in your life that you can fight for. You'll fight for your partner still. Well, that comes from your masculine. That fire within you. Yeah. The only difference is if you choose to be that and you adopt a child, it doesn't activate that rage, that dragon within you. That only happens when you become a father for real. When it's part of you, when it's part of your DNA, there's a switch it turns on in you and to activates this fucking dragon. And oh my God. And that's what you need. Like I saw this post yesterday or the day before. And a guy had been interviewing predators, sexual predators, and he's going, explain to me, he was being a student, explain to me how you choose your victims. And he said, I look at the father, and if the father's not a threat, then that's the one I choose. But if the father's a threat, I stay away.
So it's funny you say that. Listen to this. So I ex-law enforcement and worked midnights my entire career, crime scene technician, drug task force, swiftwater rescue, all that. There was a boy that was last summer come over and hang out with my daughter. They watch movies and stuff. Second time he showed up, I stopped him outside. And keep in mind, he's just barely 16. I said, my daughter has Lyric ever told you what I used to do for a living? Yes, sir. What did she tell you specifically? Well, I used to be a police officer. I said, anything more specifically? So I worked patrol as well. I said, did she ever tell you I was a crime scene technician? No, sir. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You ever do anything to her? I can make anything look like an accident. And I was dead serious. I mean, I just stared at him.
Yeah, you looked dead in the eye.
And he was like, he kind of laughed. And I was like, no, I can make anything look like an accident. He was like, yes, sir. And he came in. My daughter said, what'd you say to him? I said, you don't need to know. You don't need to know. It's just one of those things that activates in you as a father. Like, and it It just does, man. It just
Mm.
does. To your point.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's it. So and the thing is, I'm actually the same with my son and his girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
Do anything to him emotionally, and I do a similar thing, but interesting, I do it in a completely different way because something that part of my intuitive gifts that just naturally activated years ago, I can travel into other people's dreams, and they physically.
Oh, good Lord. I can only imagine. Freddy Krueger. Jesus. Oh, God. Oh, God.
And the thing is, like, when it naturally happened, because how this came about was
Oh, good Lord.
I was with a partner many years ago, and we woke up the next day, and she says, "You was in my dreams." And I went, "Well, I was in your dream." I says, "What were you doing?" "Oh, we was in a truck together." I went, "Hang on a fucking minute." Like, she was having this exactly the same dream as I did. And then I'm like, because I was always curious, right? When things happen, I've got this natural ability to go, I wonder if this is a thing. Let's experiment with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then the next week I said to a friend, I went, do you want to come over? Like, this was just a platonic friend. So they'll be sleeping in a different room. And I went, yeah. She says, yeah, I'll come over. I go, cool. I says, look, I want to experiment with this. So because I understand energy and boundaries, I set up a crystal doorway using a crystal so that she could cleanse it the next day so that doorway is closed. In other words, making them feel safe so they don't resist it. And lo and behold, that night she saw me in her dreams. So then I went, okay. So then I rang another friend who lived much further away. And I said, could you mind doing an experiment with me? And lo and behold, I was in her dreams, and I remembered being in her dream because that particular one, halfway through my dream that I was fully lucid in, there was, in the movies when they do this big black split and then go to a different scene, that happened. So I knew when I was going from her dreams back into my dreams. So, and then I was like, because what I used it for is for healing when people are too uncomfortable to lay there on a table or be there present. And I say, look, I can do dream healing where I can travel into your dream, do the work there. And I did it for my niece when she was really sick once. And because my cousin rang me, I mean, I know I said my niece, but my family's a bit, my cousin's dad's my actual cousin, but him, who I call my cousin, was my age. So it's his daughter. And she was really sick and she had to go to hospital. I went, all right. They knew I was a healer and that, and said, look, let me do something. They lived in Adelaide. I was living in Melbourne at the time. It's about 800 kilometres difference, give or take a kilometre or two. And I went in, did the dreaming. Whether she saw me in a dream, because she was maybe 4 or 5, I wasn't very old. But I saw her in my dreams. She was out of hospital the next day. She's miraculously recovered. And so that's why I do it. So anyway, this is what I said to Joel. I says, the thing is, like, this is what I say to you, like, if you ever harm him, did he tell you what to do? That, oh yeah, you're a psychic medium. And I says, I'm also an ex-martial arts champion.
Yeah.
I was also in the armed forces, on which I did stuff that I can't tell people about. That I just said I was just a lowly mechanic. And I said, but I'm far beyond a psychic medium. I'm a shaman and a traveler. So I can go into people's dreams. You hurt him emotionally and you use him, you will not get a decent night's sleep in a decade.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll end up in a mental institute depending on the level you hurt his mind. So treat him nice. You'll be able to sleep safely at night. Plus, I can send things your way too, because I have friends down there.
Oh, God, can you imagine? Oh, God.
And they're just going,
oh, God.
and I'll go, plus I'm very experienced in my feminine, so I can outbitch you.
Yeah.
So that's the level I use,
Oh,
But the good thing is, I've actually tried to counteract it going, you love yourself, you're going to attract those kinds of women anyway.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yeah. And the good thing, like to your point, my kids both, they both only allow people in their space that are just good human beings. So they I mean, that conversation would be just that. It would never turn into anything else because of what they allow in their space. But it's also setting the same thing. Like I'm a combative arms instructor. I teach hand-to-hand combat. Like, I don't care what age you are. You know what I'm saying? You lay hands, I'm gonna lay hands. So,
It's basically it's all our own versions of Liam Neeson's Taken, isn't it?
that's it.
I have a particular set of skills
I'm trying to
that
take.
that I've worked with for many, many years and become a grand bloody expert at.
Well, and I'm fit too, man. I'm at the gym every day. I take care of myself. Like, I want to be able to hold my own. That thing guys always do is like, I don't want to ever be caught from behind or caught, you know, with my dick in my hand at a urinal and not be able to defend myself, kind of thing. So I think about those things.
Yeah. And thing is, like, I mean, I could do it subtly, going, "Oh, you're Joel's new girlfriend. So which one are you scared of? Spiders, snakes, or sharks?" Everybody who's on the planet is scared of one of those three
Oh,
things, if not
absolutely.
more.
If not, oh, yeah.
Right. Mental note. Now I know what to send.
Yeah, that's so funny. So Joseph Campbell said, the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. That was something maybe think about a moment ago when you were going through some of the talk. So
Yes. So getting
tell
back
us.
on topic, that protection of men.
Yeah.
When you become a parent, you get that inner rage within you that's used for protection.
Yeah.
But then if you come together as men and you're all in your sovereign, you can create a much bigger kingdom. Take England, for example, when it was multiple kingdoms. That's why it's called the United Kingdom, because it used to be multiple kingdoms that used to argue all the time. And then one guy, there's a TV show, I can't remember what it's called, where it's roughly based on the history of England, of how it all, where one king decided, well, we need a united kingdom because we can rule better that way. You still have your little areas and you be the local lords, but ultimately I'm going to have the say. And the way he did it through knowledge and writing and communication. He didn't do it through war. He did it through agreements. And that's the difference. So it's like, well, but then you always need that edge. Going, yeah, look, let's agree. You have that land and you run it this way and you treat the people nice. There won't ever be an issue. But if I get feedback that you're raping and pillaging and I've got a bigger army than you, and then you won't rule because I'm protecting those people from you being a despot. And that's the benevolent king that I want to activate back in men, where they even stand up to the women, the ones that are going, "Oh, men are trash," stuff like that. And they go, "Well, give us your phone then, give us your car, give us your house. Go live on the streets." I'm going to make you can't live on the streets because we built them too. Or just acknowledge the fact that you've been taught something really wrong. Go and apologize to your father and your grandfather. And because that's still that relative, your grandfather probably literally fought and put his life on the line so you can have freedom. So you can have the freedom to have a phone and a car and bitch about people on the internet. And complain about men on the internet. We'd like, the statistical odds of men dying is still far outweighs the feminine, because that's our job. Yeah. That's our job, to protect and put our life on the line and do these dangerous jobs that people don't realize what's actually being done.
Absolutely.
So that's what I want to activate back in men, for them to realize how important they are to the people around them, how important they are to themselves first and foremost, because we forget that.
How important they are to the universe.
Yeah. And when we forget we're important to ourselves, we then drop those boundaries for everyone else to believe it, because our energy truly dictates what people believe who we are.
Yeah, I agree. So tell me, part of the research here, tell me more about your animal totem oracle deck and the inspiration behind it.
Yeah, well, I've always been fascinated with animals. I mean, and I know that's kind of probably a bit cliche, but I never felt I didn't want to be a zoologist or anything like that. I was just fascinated on how they, like, like when I was in England, I used to hate spiders, but I don't know who I learned that off. It wasn't mine. Because interesting enough, since I get to Australia, where they're venomous and much bigger, I find them fascinating. And then when I learned the spiritual significance on them, I realized why I found them fascinating and why most people are scared of them. So when that then started branching out to other animals, and I started seeing the spiritual significance of why they turned up, it became a fascination. So then when a different creature turned up, I'm like, oh, what do they mean? And I just started doing natural research. I didn't go out of the way, but there's this animal totem book, and I'd read through that, and I'd every time I saw an animal or a bird or an insect, I'd read what that meant. And then because you're doing things repetitively, it just becomes a habit. And then I'm like, I'm seeing it different to all the books I'm reading. So therefore, there's a new version and a different version that people need to know. And then just got happening. I did an NLP course and met a lady there, and we just got talking one day, and she's an artist. And then we just said, well, let's create an oracle deck together. And it's been in the process 2 and a bit years now, because there's been some challenges around getting it printed and life stuff and things like that. And yeah, and so I just started, and because I kind of, as best I could have, I stepped away from the mythological meanings, the historical, why the Chinese think roosters are lucky, for instance. And I looked more along the lines of what they do naturally in their environment, because animals don't have ego. In other words, they're fully intuitive. So therefore it's like, well, okay, what do rabbits do in nature? They breed ferociously. So therefore, if a rabbit, and it happens really quickly. So if a rabbit comes into your path, you don't even have to see a physical rabbit. You could start seeing rabbits on T-shirts and stickers on the backs of cars and things. Okay, this is the 5th rabbit I've seen in 2 days. Okay, that's the message. And then you've got to think about what you've been asking for of the universe, whether consciously or inadvertently. And you see rabbits, and that's the universe going, you're rapidly manifesting something right now, and it's going to happen quick, so get ready. So it's either you're manifesting something that you don't want really quickly right now, so stop what you're doing, or that thing you've been asking for, get ready because it's coming. So that's rabbits, and that's just what they do in nature. You don't have to go out to the mystical lucky rabbit's foot or anything like that. and unless that every time you see the rabbit, that's the first thing you think of. And it just still means that some luck's coming your way rapidly, because rabbits don't do anything slowly. They just super fast.
Is this a deck that you use in your practice, or is it available for people to?
It's not quite available yet. It's in the final processes of being made. So we're just deciding on the booklet right now, I believe. It was the last conversation I had with the lady doing all the behind work. I just channeled all the messages of the animals. And but I actually have a deck.
While you're pulling it up, be sure whenever it's ready, you let me know so I can push it.
So this is what it'll look like.
Sacred animals. And what's this? So this for the listener: sacred animals of the elements.
Oracle.
Got you.
So I've incorporated like the earth, air, fire, water element into them as well. And then, so this is kind of what they look like. She's a really incredible artist.
Oh, wow.
So that's ape. So that's the monkey. So that's fire element, I believe, a monkey. Yeah. Because they're creatures of action. And the element of fire is the action element. And then, so,
That's really cool. Well, you gotta make sure you let us know it's available. You're going to make it available on, let's see, what is that one?
That's the otter. Yeah. So the otter is about playfulness. But the interesting thing with otters is they will often carry a stone for when they want to go getting oysters and stuff, so they can break it, but they don't always carry the stone. So the otter is a message of having fun for a day or two, and let go of your worries. You don't always have to carry it, because that's what they do in nature. They carry a heavy weight, but they don't always carry it. They only carry it when they need to. So if you're dealing with the heavy weight, let's say you've got a court case coming up, that's a heavy weight, but it's not happening at 6 o'clock at night. So don't deal with it.
And some weights aren't meant to be picked back up.
No, so let go then and enjoy time with your kids and play Monopoly or something,
So you have a wellness support platform. Talk about that and kind of what your aspirations are for that. What is it called?
Excuseless. So XQSLESS. Excuseless. So it's all about helping people live an excuseless lifestyle. In other words, get rid of the excuses out of their lives, like, well, I'm poor because the government have put all the prices up. I'm like, no, that you're poor because you're choosing to be poor. Let's take accountability here. Yes, they have the prices up, but you can still manifest more money. Money's an infinite resource. It's energy. Energy is not limited. It's only your belief that it's limited is making it limited. So take accountability.
Well, the significance of the XQ, because it's XQSLESS.
Yeah.
What's the significance there?
Well, actually, I don't know because that a lady created it,
Ah,
and I'll reverse that. I'm a co-host.
there you
I'm the
go.
co-host of the men's health room.
Mm.
So there's 10 different rooms. There's men's health, women's health, love, intimacy, and relationships, spiritual and mindset, physical health through miscellaneous, money. There could be three others, but
Where can people
so
find that? Where can people find that to tap
it's
into?
on the school platform. That's
Oh, yeah, yeah. SKOOL.
SKOOL, the school platform.
Yeah.
And it's $5 US a month.
Oh, wow.
And then you get access to all the rooms. So you don't just get access to one, you get access to all the rooms. And every week there's 3 videos from guest professionals
Mm.
talking about different areas depending on which room you're in.
Mhm.
So I've done videos around men's health and mindset for men and stuff like that. And yeah, and it's just something and the videos are no longer than 7 minutes. So they're not big, so you can
So they're
21 minutes.
digestible, actionable, digestible. You can
Yeah. Depending on what the video is about, you can watch as many or as little videos as you want, and it literally opened up on Monday, so it is available for people to join on Monday.
We'll make sure that that's in the show notes too. I'll put a link in there. I don't know if you said
Yeah,
that too, but make sure you do so I can put that in there because that's powerful and
yeah.
that's a very a popular platform in the United States. A lot of people use and have the app on their phone. I mean,
Oh, okay,
I'm in
cool. Yeah,
part of a couple of groups on school, and when I'm working out, I watch lessons and stuff in there. So it's a really good platform. Glad you
yeah.
guys.
And the good thing is because we have guest professionals, if you feel you've got something valuable to add, you can apply to be a guest professional.
Mhm, mhm.
But if you want to just learn, then it's 7 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And only one video goes out on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But then they're available for I think 9 days after that for you to watch, and then a new set comes up the next week. So
Mm.
you've always got at least 6 videos to watch before they come down and the next set come up. And again, they're just on so many different subjects. So if you are having money challenges, there's a money mindset room or money and finance room. So you can learn some tips from guest professionals and it's only 7 minutes. So you
Mhm.
can put your headphones on, or you can literally prefer to watch it and you're on a lunch break. You can watch. Everyone has a half an hour lunch. You're not even using up all your lunch to watch a half-hour video. Even you've got 7 minutes, and you can still enjoy yourself in the park or eat your dinner or whatever it is that you're doing,
Mm.
and take on board some knowledge and learn things that you may not have known, or a different aspect of something you might know that you didn't really see it that way before, because everybody sees the world differently.
Well, it's just like some of the things you dropped here about we talk about meditation, how you helped me reframe the thought of that. I
Yeah,
was saying it differently, but it was like I think about the way I was saying it was I was trying to say the same thing you used, but I was putting blocks on it by the
yeah,
words I was using.
yeah,
Right. So you just the slight shift. I mean, you can pick that up like you dropped 4 or 5 gems in here that's like, man, that changes that perspective on that. I'm thinking the same way, but I'm putting barricades up because of the words, the way that I'm saying them in my head. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. But to be honest, I've got a natural gift on knowing the right word,
Of course. Yes.
because every word has an energetic reference.
Yeah.
So tomato, they're actually very, very energetically, they're very, very different. And
Mhm.
when I've done sessions with people, and my clear audience is kicking in, and they say something, I'll go, "Can I stop you there? Can you
Yeah.
hear what you just said?
Yeah.
That one specific word, this issue you've come to me about. That one word is creating that issue.
Mhm.
We are powerful manifestors, and
Mhm.
the words we use are creating the spells. They are the spells.
Mhm.
We are spelling our world every day by how we talk. So if you
Hypnotizing
don't,
ourselves, right? Yeah.
yeah, we are. So if you're not speaking eloquently, and I'm not necessarily saying the British, oh, la di da, let's do it, and that way, because I certainly don't speak
But
like
that's what I
that.
hear in my head whenever I try to
Yeah,
be proper. That's the voice I
yeah, but it's about noticing the words that you're using. So if you're using negative positives like, oh, I don't, I don't think money's a limited resource, because that word "don't's" there. You're saying, I think money's a limited resource.
Yes.
Whereas you should be saying money is an unlimited resource. Money is infinite. The massive difference in the words, which are creating your reality. So if you've never got quite enough money, change how you speak about it.
Yeah. It's so true.
That's the first thing I say.
It's the framing, right? Like I say this, I think of this quite often. This example, Simon Sinek talks about, like you get your kids to focus on what they should do. An example, you get a brand new leather sofa, something beautiful white leather sofa, and you don't want them to eat on it. You don't say you don't eat on the couch. What you should say instead is, we're supposed to eat at the kitchen table. It's a completely different thing.
I would say it a completely different way, because I teach conscious parenting as well.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that a lot of parents don't realize is you're not raising a child.
Mm-hmm.
You're raising an adult.
Yeah.
So that because we think we're raising a child, we treat them like a child.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to be a child. They're literally a child. You don't need to teach them how to be that. They're just naturally that. But what you are doing is raising an adult that can contribute to society. I don't like the word, but contribute to their own life positively.
But that's what we've all agreed to, right?
Yeah. No. So to contribute to their own life positively, which will in turn contribute to everyone's lives around them positively.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you do that is by treating them like an adult. And the only difference between a child and an adult is vocabulary, interestingly enough.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't have the level of vocabulary that an adult does. So if you say, oh, you're supposed to eat at the table, some kids might go, I'm not supposed to do anything. My free spirit, I'm not going to do freaking anything. Up yours. Whereas if you treat them like an adult, going, look, and don't bring money into it. A sofa's a sofa. It's not an expensive sofa.
Right.
Regardless of what you paid for it, it's just a sofa saying, look, and be honest with them as well. Kids need honesty. That's how to raise them. Honesty and teach them. Okay, look, the reason I want you to eat at the table is in this household, I like us to eat at a table so we can be a family unit together and we can chat and converse. And it's easier to do that at the table than sat on the sofa. The other thing is, because you're 7, the likelihood of you spilling something on the sofa is quite high.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to prevent that. And the way to prevent that is by having you eat at the table.
Yeah,
so for me, please come and eat at the table.
That's good.
Because you've been honest with them. You've treated them like an adult. You've explained it positively. And you haven't just gone, come and eat at the freaking table. That's where we eat. Yeah. In other words, you've treated them like an adult at a level of understanding at an adult. And when you do that, you look them in the eyes. And the reason you look them in the eyes, see if they've understood what you've just said. Because if they're looking at you going, I don't know what you're talking about, you then ask them and say, right, I can see in your eyes, so you're being honest again. I can see in your eyes there was part of that you didn't quite understand. So help me out here. Which part of that don't you understand? And they might say, well, I like to eat at the sofa. It's more comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, but and then you have an adult conversation.
Yeah.
And another thing that kids always another thing that kids always want from you is time. Mm-hmm. Regardless if your food's getting cold on the table, it's more important to give you in that moment to give your kids the time. Mm-hmm. And you say, okay, is there a reason why you feel uncomfortable spending family time at the table? You ask them a direct, honest question. Oh, well, because your kid might naturally be a loner. Mm-hmm. They might have stuff going on at their head that at the table, everyone talking is too much for them. Mm-hmm. It's a sensory overload.
So they need that overload, yeah.
So they need that alone time and go, okay, so let's compromise. That 3 times a week, you join us at the table. 4 times a week, you sit at the sofa, but under these conditions. You have a towel.
Yeah, a plastic tarp. You put a tarp.
And say that's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
To compromise, that bit's non-negotiable because I'm the one that has to clean the sofa. Mm-hmm. Or if you don't want that, then you're the one that cleans the sofa. Mm-hmm. But you have to clean it at the level I teach you at to clean it.
Yeah, yeah.
Not just wiping it with a cloth and it's still being smeared all over the sofa.
Well, it makes me think about
that whole conversation could take 15 minutes and then your dinner's cold.
But
does it matter that your dinner goes cold? No, everyone's got microwaves these days.
Absolutely.
And so at the end of the day, like you take that time and then all of a sudden your kid feels empowered, mm-hmm. has been given a choice, has been listened to, and then you've come to a compromise. He gets what he wants, you get what he wants. And if the other kid, well, why can't I sit on the sofa going, do you enjoy family time at the table? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, so different people, different rules. And then you're teaching your kids that people can have differences and do different things and it still be okay.
That's it.
So you're then teaching them inadvertently, teaching them to agree to disagree.
Yeah. So it's like when we moved back from California, we were thinking about doing so. My son was, so we've been back. He's 21 now, 22. God, I guess he was at 15, maybe at the time, 14, maybe. And we were thinking about this decision to move back to Nashville. But we made it because it's what we did before we moved out there is got him involved in the conversation. Hey, we're not going to be the parents to tell you what we're going to be doing. We want you to, your opinion matters in this situation. So same thing. We sat down. I got on eye level. I didn't peer above him. I got on eye level and had a conversation. Hey, we're thinking about doing this. I don't want you to give me an answer right now. Um, I want you to really take into account. Don't, your friends, all those kind of things that we're going to be navigating. And it's really important. Your opinion on what we do is equal. So take however many days you need to do so. There's no rush. And just let me know what you think. And whatever you decide is 100% supported and we're fine with. So he did. A few days later, he called me. I was walking down a Santa Monica Boulevard, believe it or not, in West Hollywood. Hey, I've thought about it. And he said, I want to move back. I want to be around my cousins. Done. So that's that part of like I had a conversation with him like he was an adult because his opinion did matter. And so what you just said about unpacking it that way, you can apply that in every conversation you have with your
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah. The irony is we often don't treat adults like adults.
Yeah, right.
We treat, and that's because we haven't evolved from our 7-year-old self. So we're coming from the inner child wound and acting like a child because we haven't learned that we weren't raised how to be an adult.
I think part of that too is goes back to something you said very early on in this show was, and correct the phrasing of this, but like you may come across as an asshole now when you kind of tap into this kind of thing. It's like I just got to be honest and straight with you. I'm never going to do anything to necessarily harm you, but we got to have an adult conversation right now. I can't sugarcoat this. It's what it is. The information I'm providing you is what it is. That's just all I can tell you.
And another thing I used to say to my son was going, when it comes to discipline, because you're allowed to discipline as a parent, because you're teaching them boundaries. What you're really doing is teaching them boundaries. And kids inherently are going to cross those boundaries because that's how they learn what a boundary is, by crossing it.
That's it.
Kids learn by doing the actual thing. So if your 3-year-old is manipulating you, they know how to manipulate. So teach them how to do it positively. And put the boundary in place going, if you're going to treat me like that, then there's going to be consequences.
Here's the consequence.
Well, the word I used with my son was appropriate response.
Yeah.
So it's like, so if you're jiffling on the table and you spilled the drink, the appropriate response is you clean it up.
Yeah.
Like, but I also said to him, sometimes as a parent, it's going to be frustrating when something happens in the moment. I'm going to bawl at you.
Yeah.
So that's just me being a parent. Don't take it personally. That's just I'm going to have my say, probably a bit ferocious. But what I am going to do is afterwards is give you a platform for feedback.
That's
so you can say,
oh my God.
So you can say to me, going, Dad, I didn't like you shouting at me like that. I didn't like you being angry like that. So can you? And what I'll say to him, and I said to him, says, I promise that when I get the feedback next time, I'll do better.
Yeah.
According to your feedback.
So that's so important because, like you said, I'm so glad you said it, because no matter how in tune we are, how, vibrational frequency we are, we're still human beings at the end of the day, right? And we're going to have those moments where we respond not in the way that we, at our essence, the way we want to. So it happens. Have conversation with my son, gets heated, whatever, and that happens. I come back later. Hey, listen, I want to tell you that I was wrong. Like I am also working on myself as well. I want to come to you and ask for your grace in this, and this, this conversation we're having, and understanding that what happened is going to make me a better version. So the next time we encounter something like this, I'm going to be better. Just know I'm working on myself too. So what that does is that you use the word empower. Well, when it shows them like, oh gosh, you don't have to be perfect as an adult, because there's a certain age where they think you're a superhero, right?
Yeah.
But then what it does is it empowers them to be like, it's okay to mess up and be human, but I can also fix this as long as I'm coming back about it with a good heart and good intention, on the backside of it. So I love that you said that. I love that you said that.
Yeah. And what it does as well, it enables them to trust you.
Yes.
So when they mess up as adults, which is usually a much bigger
Yeah.
ball of string with lots more complexities, they're not going to hide it from you. They're going to
That's
like.
right.
I know. When I was stuck outside of Australia for 3 months, my son crashed his bloody car while I was away, and he rang me the next day.
Yeah.
Dad, I've got something to tell you.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'd bawled at him his whole life, he wouldn't have told me. He would have tried to
Oh,
hide it. But he rang me and says, "Oh look, crashed my car,"
yeah.
and because he's open and honest, like I'm like, oh, for heck's sake, mate, like, the irony was, I literally told him that morning to drive safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing with my son is, this doesn't apply to every parent, because I have to remind him, mate, you've got to remember your parent isn't normal.
Yeah.
I'm a powerful psychic. I can see things coming. And I might say it nonchalantly or in the flow, but that's often how my intuition talks.
Yeah.
So if I ever tell you to drive safe, heed it like it's a freaking bright red
Yeah.
warning going, rah, 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 rah. And look, he didn't harm himself. He didn't write his car off or anything like that. He aquaplaned around a corner and hit a barrier at low speed. And I said, you were going too fast. So I wasn't going too fast. I was going the speed limit. I went, was it too fast for the corner?
Yeah. Conditions. Right.
No,
Conditions.
no. I'm like, yeah, it was, blah, blah, blah. But the good thing is I didn't have to, mate, so I had my moment, because that's how I raised him. I says, I'm going to have my moment as a parent, and I'm going to pull you up. And then afterwards, you got your voice.
Yeah.
And then once we've done that and the initial shock energy's done,
Mhm.
then we make light of it, and now just take the piss out of him for
And
all the
that's why
time.
my kids are like, they're like that too, because we've always
Yeah.
created a safe space for them. Like, you share
Yeah.
it. I'm gonna have initial response. There might be some whatever phrase you use. I'm gonna say
Yeah.
consequences. That's the term we
Yeah.
all kind of use. There may or may not be, but then we're going to talk about it, the best way to navigate it next time. And they're
Yeah.
so open to come with that information to you.
Yeah.
Whenever we
And
do
and
that.
then what happens is you end up having an amazing relationship with an adult.
Yeah.
I have such an like for instance, like this is on these things that I taught him growing up. When I told him, I says, "Oh, my mate Dicko is going to be my best man," and he was like, "Oh, I wanted to be your best man," and I just says, I don't feel it'd be right, mate, appropriate."
Mhm.
And he says, "Well, why?" I says, "It's a challenging thing to explain," and he said, "Explain it to me."
Mm.
He put me on the spot because I taught him to explain. He
Yeah.
did exactly the same thing back to me. So I'm like, good on
Yeah.
you, mate. And I said to him in the mirror, I said, I'm really proud of you for saying that. One, for speaking up,
Yeah.
and two, for asking me to explain it
Yeah.
to help you make sense of it.
That's great.
So you empowered yourself by going, I want you to tell me why. This is an important thing.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me why. So I said, look, I explained it to him, and he was like, okay, I'm cool with it now.
That's great.
So
I love
and it was just such a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And it's something I'll treasure and remember my whole
Of
life,
course.
because I've got this amazing relationship with my son that
Yeah.
99% of the time is banter and
Yeah.
taking Mickey out of him for mistakes he's made, that he's not taking personally, because we've had the ball out and we've had
Right.
the responsible consequences thing. But he's also able to open up with his emotions,
Mhm.
which which hopefully means he'll be able to do that in a relationship with a woman.
Yeah, and my kids the same way, so emotionally strong and in tune and completely comfortable with themselves. I'm like, I tell them both, is like, it didn't, I'm 52, I'll be 53 in February. It's like, I didn't really get this until I was like 42. You guys have figured this out already.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's really amazing.
And this is the thing, when fathers are in their disempowered king, they don't create an environment for their kids and partners to grow. They dominate, because a disempowered king dominates and expands their territory through domination, through war. Whereas an empowered king, will help people be the best versions of them, and hopefully help them be better than who he is. He's the platform for the next level.
Mhm.
So I want my son to be better than me emotionally,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
in many different ways. I don't feel he's going to be better than me psychically, because that's not his purpose.
Mhm. Which is
So
okay. Yeah.
but I want him to have a more happier life than I've had over the years.
Mhm.
And so if him being a mechanic makes him happy, and I even had a conversation with him around that, going, the thing is, being a mechanic, mate, your earning level has a ceiling,
Mhm.
because you're choosing to be a mechanic. Just so you're aware of that, because prior to that, he wanted to be a graphic designer, whereas his ceiling is much, much bigger.
Yeah.
Work for himself and get big contracts and do all kinds. But he says, but he tried it for a year, figured it wasn't his thing. Then he got a car and learned to drive and kept crashing it and breaking it. And but in that process, he found out he loved being a mechanic.
Yeah.
So with all those things, so how can I say, well, those things are a mistake when that's what brought him to being something that he clearly enjoys doing?
I had a similar conversation with my son. He was majoring in Japanese, and we were just like, hey, you do follow that passion, that dream, whatever. I said, but here's what I want you to think about. Your opportunities in ceiling are going to be this. I'm going to support whatever you want to do, but I want you to just think about these pieces, so very similar kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
take on board my wisdom as an adult. That's the challenge. Which there must be something within the human psyche, which means when they turn 19, they just forget that adults much older than them have wisdom and knowledge of what they're doing. And I think it's partly because they want to learn it themselves. They want to make their own mistakes along the way, which is empowering. They just want to go, you know what, I want to learn it my way and do my mistakes.
That's it.
I'll take it on board. But I've said to him, says, yeah, that's all well and good, mate. But just remember, I'm a powerful psychic.
Yeah.
There's going to be things that I'm telling you because I want you to avoid going through that journey of a complete and utter cock up.
So my wife will tell my kids all the time, because we've been together going on 27 years, been married.
Excellent.
25 years married this coming year, April. She always
You're
tells
a marriage expert.
she'll tell my kids that if your father ever tells you, somebody that you're hanging out with or somebody around or something says something's not right with that person, just listen to him. Don't ask for an explanation. Just move on, because there's something. And a lot of times I can't figure out what it is. There's just something.
That's intuition. It just knows. And it
Yeah.
doesn't need. The thing is, like, logic wants to know the reasoning.
Yeah.
Logic wants the answers to prove that it's right. Whereas intuition just knows it right. So it doesn't need to know any of that information. It goes, trust me, I just know.
So that's one of those things, Roy, that I would tell you that I have not resisted. Once I've learned that that's a thing that's being given to me, intuition, I don't ever look for an answer why. I'm just like, hey, there's a reason. You may not ever know,
No.
but there's a reason why this person is hitting me the way that they are. So we're to the rapid fire segment. Are you ready? Are you buckled in? Rapid fire.
Buckled in.
All right. Yeah. What's your go-to method for de-stressing after a long day?
Gaming.
What game?
Skyrim or City Skylines 2. Skyrim.
What?
Oh my God, that's just.
Is it a PC game?
I love it. Yeah. It's PC. It's all of them, consoles and PC. It was actually came out in 2011, but it's still quite relevant today.
You play it on PC?
I do now. Originally, I played it on Xbox, I believe.
Xbox, yeah. What's one piece of advice you'd give your 20-year-old self?
Oh, wow, interesting. Stick it out in the Navy longer.
Books or movies?
Movies, but certain authors' books.
Yeah. Early bird or night owl?
Both. I make the most of the day. I'm up at 6, usually 6, 7 o'clock, and I don't go to bed till 12.
I'm up at by 4:15. I go to bed about the same. What's your go-to comfort food?
Good question. I've got such a varied diet. Comfort food. Bloody hell, what do I eat for comfort? Chips. Salt and vinegar chips.
If you could master, is that an English thing? Salt and vinegar chips? I swear.
Yeah, very, very.
I
actually bought some vinegar the other day because I hadn't had it in the house for so long. I'm like, I just need salt and vinegar. Because I either can't eat the vinegar because it's got wheat in it.
If you could master,
not malt vinegar anyway.
Oh, malt vinegar. Yeah. If you could master any skill instantly, what would it be?
Oh, piano playing.
My son's a classical pianist. One word to describe aging.
Normal.
What's a place you still want to visit?
Well, it's an area. It's East Asia, like Japan, China. It's the one big part of the world I've not gone to yet.
Who inspires you the most right now?
My son has always inspired me, because he's always held me accountable, and he's the one that's helped me grow the most because I had to be the king for him.
What's your favorite thing about your current stage of life?
My intuition is on point, and when I listen to it, it really, really helps me. So, you know, that deep in and knowing that all the mistakes I've made are necessary. So I've not made any mistakes in that regard.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
My dad actually once said, never regret the things you do, only the things you don't. And I lived by that. And so my regrets are so really not important. I think I've worked out, I've got either 3 or 4 regrets in my life. And there's only one that's mildly painful. Whereas, so one was like, I had a chance to go to the Rolling Stones Voodoo Lounge concert at Wembley, but my passion at the time was soccer, so I chose to play soccer instead. So that's a regret. And there's another one with my grandma. She was like 92 when she passed, but up until 91, she was still walking down the street on her own to a local club where our family always used to hang out. And often when I was walking down into town to go to the bars, 91, I couldn't sneak past her. You know, she knew, and bearing in mind, she's had 13 children, 60 odd grandchildren. So it's not like there was only a couple of them. She knew everyone who was hers. You're one of mine, come on. And I'd drop her off at the top of the stairs and then I'd go to my mates. That's a regret that I wish I didn't always stop and have a beer with her. That's my painful regret. Yeah, and there's just a couple of other little silly ones like the Rolling Stones concert thing. So, but yeah.
Define spirituality in one sentence.
Powerful.
It's great. You made it through the rapid fire. How do you feel? I mean, you surprised by that? So
yeah, because when you get put on the spot, like you go,
yeah, it's fun. It's fun though. So the regret I have, you talk about Rolling Stones. I had an opportunity to see Prince. I had box seats to see Prince at an arena here in Nashville, and I was working some job as a manager for a clothing store, something way back. And I was like, oh God, they're gonna, if I take the day off, and I so regret that. It's like that job, and they never cared about, just a number to them. It's like, why did I let that? That's one thing I think about, because of course Prince is no longer with us. So, so how can people find Roy? How can people connect with you? We'll make sure we put this in the show notes. What kind of things you're working on? I know we talked about the cards. What else is going on?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just the school platform, the Excuseless Tribe. That's my main thing at the moment, being part of that, because we have to do, I think, 3 videos a week plus and this is just for the intro of being the host of the room. And then I'm also doing actual guest professional videos too. So that's taking a lot of my time. But then also, yeah, I'm still working with clients in regards to 8-week mentoring programs, Activating the King Within. You can find me there through my website, which is iammerlin.org. And then that's, and I'm across socials. I'm usually Roy B. Man of Merlin, because that's my main energetic connection, is the wisdom and mythological side of Merlin. Being English, it's easy to connect to that person. And I've always found him fascinating my whole life. I kind of knew about him before I physically knew about him. So he's always been a guide of mine, Merlin. And so Roy B. Man of Merlin, that's in LinkedIn, Facebook groups, Instagram. My YouTube channel's called that as well. Yeah, so I regularly do YouTube videos for spiritual health, mental health. Yeah, it's all aimed at the spirituality, coming from the spiritual angle through our emotions and mind, and how to blend them together, because we're humans having a spiritual experience, but we're also spiritual beings having a human experience, which few people realize that side of things. So you've got to have this blend of again, the N in men, which is natural. We're naturally human too. So the days you're having an absolute human meltdown, just acknowledge it. That's fine. That's okay. It's okay to be human, because that's what you're here to do. That's what you're here to learn. Interestingly, you can't have this intuition without the human mind. So if you deny your human mind and try and be totally spiritual, you're unbalanced. If you ignore the spiritual, you're unbalanced. If you're too much in your mind, you're unbalanced. So it's that balance. It's having that wisdom and experience, working experience and practice. That's why it's called a spiritual practice, to know when to be human and to use logic and make those physical world choices and to take physical action, or knowing when to sit and do om.
Mm-hmm.
You work well with the both and you're quite balanced.
Mm-hmm.
And you will get it wrong. You still get it wrong.
Yeah.
Because that's human nature.
It's a practice. That's why it's a practice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Any final last words you want to leave the audience? I think that was very good there. But if you have any final words?
Just be comfortable in being you and stick up for being you. So if you like, especially for men, like if you've got a group of men and you like doing something that they don't, and if you speak about it, they take the piss out of you for it, speak about it anyway. And then if they really get vociferous, they're not your tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So be you with power and strength behind and courage behind that to be you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had to do that in the Navy, really, which was be me and be effeminate and in tune while spending time with 54 guys in a room as big as what I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had to stand up for who I was and not give a F what they thought.
Mm-hmm. That's good, man. Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks for listening and tuning into another episode of Reinventing Life After 50. And as always, this is to your health and wellness. Bye now.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.